I'm Julie Barkey with this Senate update. Next Monday is the constitutional deadline to adjourn the 2015 legislative session, and at this point, leadership isn't even mentioning a special session, despite the fact that they are not moving in the direction of resolving some of their key budget issues and some policy issues as well. Prior to a meeting today between House and Senate leadership, Speaker of the House Kurt Daudt and Majority Leader Bakk spoke to the media about last weekend's fishing opener and also about the budget negotiations.
The rumor is that you did not catch the biggest fish.
That is true. I did not. I think the governor is the one that said that, and I think what he was talking about was that he and I had a wager, a friendly wager, that the one that caught the biggest fish would get lunch from the other one. So I think that's what he was talking about when he said that I caught the biggest fish. Actually, I'm not sure if Tom's fish was bigger. Tom and I each caught one that was about the same size. I think his probably was bigger. But regardless, we all caught fish and we all had fun. So it was, none of them were huge by any means, but we had a great time fishing.
Does that make a difference in something like this?
Who caught the biggest fish?
Yes.
No. The wager we did not have was $1 billion in spending for the biggest fish. So,
but obviously you guys were meeting. I haven't seen three leaders like this on a boat for a long time. Expected one of you not to come back.
Well,
but now,
folks ask me if this has ever happened before. I don't know if it ever has happened before, but I think it shows that we can go out together in a bipartisan fashion and celebrate the rich tradition of the Minnesota fishing opener. And we had fun. We smoked a couple cigars and caught a whole bunch of fish and had a great time.
Does it make a difference when you get back into negotiating?
I always say that you never want the first time that you sit down and talk with somebody to be at the negotiating table. It's much better, and it makes negotiations go much smoother if you can have a good relationship outside of the Capitol and you know each other on a personal level. I think that helps in negotiations.
On a more serious note, you met on HHS yesterday for how many hours? I quit after 3.
I don't know that we were even in there that long. Were we 2.5 hours maybe?
Okay.
Something like 2 or 2.5 hours.
And so people left with homework,
They did. I think we obviously need to come together there. We're about 1.4 billion apart, and they have some disagreement in our numbers. We don't agree with their numbers. So we tried to not spend a lot of time ideologically trying to convince the other side that we're right, and spend more time trying to find some common ground in the middle. At least that was my intent. It didn't exactly work that way, but as I'm sure it never does. But I think hopefully we'll come out of that we will find some common ground in that.
If not, would you be content walking away with a series of essentially lights-on bills?
I would hope that at the very least we would do that, but I'm still optimistic that we can close this out on time. Obviously there needs to be some movement on both sides. I have been ready and willing to do that from my perspective. So the other side needs to move a little bit, and we need to get the governor engaged in the negotiations as well.
I heard some of your caucus members were surprised last week to read that you said $1 billion in tax cuts would be the middle ground.
Well, I just pointed out where the middle ground is. They shouldn't be surprised to find out where the middle ground is. I didn't necessarily say that's what I was shooting for or aiming for, but that is the middle ground.
And what's on the docket today? More healthcare?
We're just gonna
public safety.
Yeah, we're just gonna keep visiting. We have
shore lunch.
All of them. No, we didn't keep any fish. We threw them all back. So we practiced catch and release. So we missed our walleye lunch today. So
given that big divide on HHS, it's still only one of many big divides. Don't you have to start closing?
Yes,
some
we do.
of them pretty soon?
Yep, we do.
When?
Yeah, absolutely.
When would you
Today.
like to?
3 days ago is when I wanted to, but obviously we'll keep working until we get there. So I plan to spend the entire day today visiting and trying to close that gap. So
just for our planning purposes, if that's okay with everyone, what's sort of the lay of the land today? Are we here until midnight? Or are we
likely?
Okay.
Yeah. Likely.
Late night.
Yeah, my guess would be we'll be in this all day today.
Okay.
So
great.
and hopefully we can make some real progress. So
all right.
Yeah.
So, Senator, does it make a difference? You're out on the lake over the weekend with other leaders. Does that make a difference here?
Well, it certainly helps. We actually had a very good time, and I know people kind of expected we were going to talk about the budget, but the truth is, to catch 35 walleyes in about 3 hours, it seemed like at some point someone always had a fish on, which was quite a distraction. So it was a very successful day out. The lighter moment, I think, would be described as when we came into the dock. I told the speaker, I said, Mr. Speaker, you see those little satellite toilets over there? Why don't you go try one? Because next session, that's what you're going to be using here in the Capitol. And I suspect that your members and staff probably aren't going to enjoy that too much.
So you did get in some policy, yeah.
The speaker confirmed this morning that in fact you caught the bigger fish.
I think that's probably accurate. I think it was erroneously reported by the press that he caught the larger one. I did catch the most. There was no dispute about that.
You caught the most and you caught the largest, and I'm trying not to read into that, so what's going to go on behind closed doors?
Well, it was a really, really good day on the water, and I'm just really pleased it was so successful from a fishing standpoint. Lake Vermilion's an incredible fishery. And I guess it showed that on Saturday.
Do you bring some of those good feelings back with you here then into the room?
Well, the speaker and I have always been doing fine. The challenge is, I have to count to 34 on the floor. He has to count to 68 on the floor, and there's all these external pressures on us that are probably more problematic than the relationship between him and myself.
Would you be content walking out of here with just a series of lights on bills?
No, that's not a solution. That's silly talk. I think the main emphasis needs to be on the 8 or so budget bills we have that actually make appropriations for the state budget. And it could be that we leave with only those must-pass bills, and the other bills that aren't must-pass bills, things like the legacy bill, and I don't know how far apart we are on that, but it's not a must-pass bill. Transportation's not a must-pass bill. I actually offered last week to throw the towel in on it, even though it's my #1 priority, and asked them to consider throwing the towel in on a tax bill, and let's just deal with the appropriation bills. And that wasn't all that well received. But we do need to just get focused in on the bills that make appropriations for the next 2-year budget.
But you need them to come off their tax target so you have enough money to spend on the stuff that Democrats want to spend on.
Well, I think that the challenge is we don't need a tax bill. So it's not one of the bills that needs to be into consideration when it comes to setting targets. So what we need are these appropriation bills that fund state government.